No. That let me tell you, all the anchors, Suhasini, when she was anchoring, all the anchors, to my mind, A, are specialists in their domain, and B, there's a lot of research. Because see, today, if you say something erroneously on television, you'll have an army of people on social media who'll batter you, saying, oh, you got your facts wrong. So it's being shamed on social media that prevents them from being idiots.
All right. I do actually want to get to the Q&A quicker than the program mentioned, so I will. But I
1 minute, this is a flight thing.
That's
Just
fine.
call me in 15 minutes.
I mean, I just wanted to stop to find out who it is that Suhail stops to take the call from.
No one.
And I do want to wind it up by doing what Suhail is going to hate. Because for all the bluster behind him, Suhail just does not like emotion. He doesn't like anything, very, very personal there. But I did read a piece written by your brother some months ago. So I'm going to take the liberty of asking. He talks about the fact that as a child, your father faced trouble in his business. And it meant not just, hardship, but it also meant that you were unsafe as well. I want you to talk a little bit about yourself and end by telling me what you think are the real, you've given everyone else's mantras for success. Tell us what yours are.
Okay, so we grew up in Calcutta, reasonably wealthy family, typical Punjabi scenario, 4 brothers fighting. My grandfather passed away, Naxalite movement, factory shut down. I was sent off to boarding school because of safety issues. So I went off to Nainital, came back just as my grandfather had passed away. And my dad wanted to restart the factory. And ours was the first bulk pharma producing factory in India. And it was actually the first foreign company takeover. So, you had a certain sense of lineage. But when I went to Barrackport Trunk Road, BD Road, and saw the factory as a kid, it was appalling. It was just appalling. I didn't want to be there. Then my parents' chartered accountant duped them and they went off on one anniversary abroad. I spent every afternoon in courts. So I would go to school, I'd go to the library, then I'd go to court. And I'd brief lawyers. And, that's how I picked up an interest in the law, and which is why all my closest friends today are lawyers. But, so one has seen life through through a very logical perspective. And both my brother and I have been taught 3 things. One is never take a loan. Number 2, never lie. And number 3, never say something behind someone's back that you'd be afraid of saying in front of their face. So people say you're rude, I don't care. But I'm not going to marry your daughter, and neither am I going to marry you. And, I'm a great believer, and Ratan said this at my prodding, Ratan Tata said this at my prodding to an interview in The Economist. Ultimately, it's not about the house you live in, the car you drive, the clothes you wear. Ultimately, it's about a good night's sleep. Premchand brilliantly said, "Ghode bech ke sone ki jo aadat hai." If you can't enjoy that, then what the hell is all this, running around for? And when I say good night's sleep, either alone or with Nadeem, in your case, but you know what I mean.
No, we all know what you mean, sir.
So, it's fun. And those were tough years. But I have to credit Calcutta, obviously my parents, but Calcutta as well. So I used to spend hours with Mrinal Sen talking about cinema. I would go to Lee Road to Satyajit Ray's house and hear him play the piano for me. I'd spend time with Rusi Modi. What was I, about 16, 17 years old? Now, how many 17-year-olds either have the desire or the opportunity? In those days, there was no cocaine, but most of my friends were on weed. And they'd, spend time drinking in the evenings. My time was, school would get over, because for 11 and 12, I came back to Calcutta, would get over at 1:20 in the afternoon. I'd come home, lunch, to this day, afternoon siesta, and then I'd go to British Council. Because British Council, A, was air-conditioned, uninterrupted power supply in those days in Calcutta, and B, had brilliant videos of all the BBC series. So I imbibed all of Shakespeare and the brilliant work that Derek Jacobi had done as an actor. And then we'd wind up with a guy who you guys haven't heard of, but one of the most brilliant philosophers of our time, didn't get his credit, Professor Sudhanshu Dasgupta. So I, get into debates with him, then come home, dinner, go to sleep. Every Saturday, Sunday, you rehearse. So, I was doing a play with Badal Sarkar on the one hand, with Professor Vishwanathan on the other. And these were fabulous times. You were writing for the Junior Statesman, you were writing for the Statesman, you were spending hours when Swapan Dasgupta and Chandan Mitra were non-right-wing people sitting in the Statesman. You were discussing history, the history of Sikkim with Sunanda K. Dattare, who wrote that brilliant book on the annexation of Sikkim. So we grew up in an atmosphere of great, what I would call cerebral turbulence, but of a good kind. You read plays, you acted in plays, you spoke, there was public speaking, there were debates, there was elocution, there was poetry writing. It wasn't, Pani Puri at Bengali Market and Emporio Armani, whatever the hell, whatever, you know what I mean. So it was a different world.
You can curse Emporio, but please eat the Pani Puri.
Okay, done. We have puchkas which are far better in Calcutta. So those were, to my mind, it's not about everyone says, oh, those were damn good days. It was just we chose a different path. College was exciting. One would go to festivals around India. I think where today's Indian, and I don't know where this was actually in London last year at the LSE. They asked about Brand India and what's happening. And I said, the biggest problem in today's India is parenting. And I'm not saying parents are at fault. I'm just saying the entire construct has become warped. Parenting, like everything else, is being outsourced. Today, it's about how many tutors you have. In the earlier days, if you had a tutor, it was a matter of shame. The second thing that's happened is parents themselves are uninvolved or illiterate or ignorant or stupid. They themselves are not reading. Although the avenues of knowledge have increased. We're not handwriting letters anymore. You're not reading essays. You're not reading Chaucer. You're not reading Dante. You're not reading Emily Bronte. You don't even know where Wordsworth wrote Daffodils. So the point I'm making is that we are becoming a cookie cutter country because the liberal arts are dead. It's about MBA, engineering, all that kind of nonsense. And to my mind, the day you kill liberal arts in a country, you kill its soul. You ask people about Dinkar or Nirala or Premchand, Vijay Tendulkar. You ask a normal young boy, Vijay Tendulkar, he says, no, it's actually Sachin Tendulkar, you got the name wrong. It's a fact. Today, Tagore is coming to focus because that stupid Kalyan Singh who says, oh, Adhinayak means the British Raj. He doesn't understand that it was actually a Brahmo Samaj Psalm. It was an ode. So, we have these idiots as governors. You've got some idiots in parliament, which you always have. That's the continuing factor. So, to my mind, who's inspirational? Which is why I've always said, you may curse Indira Gandhi, but the one thing this country has to be grateful for is Nehru. And the whole liberal streak that he brought to this country. We've again forgotten that liberal streak. Today we want to rewrite textbooks. We want to politicize even the content within our textbooks. We're not reading Indian historians anymore. We're not celebrating those who are alive. You look at the splendid work of Romila Thapa. You ask the average Delhi person who used to read or read the Hindustan Times when Kushwant was alive, but Kushwant was a better Sikh history scholar than an editor or a columnist. Or read M.J. Akbar's fantastic books over the years. So I'm saying, to my mind, from a cerebral point of view, we have dumbed down. And we have dumbed down in a very dangerous way. So yesterday, I went to Bombay in the afternoon because our board meeting is at night at 8:30. So yesterday, the CEO of Epic, a TV channel that's just begun, which is actually funded by Mukesh and Anand. They're the founders of that channel. Now, look at the content of that channel. It is unbelievable. So I told the CEO, I said, you don't worry. He says, we are not getting TRPs for the Saas Bahu and all. I said, to hell with the Saas Bahu. I said, you appeal to the intelligent Indian. And there are many intelligent Indians who want to move away from the Sas-Bahu syndrome. So much in the same vein, I think growing up was amazing. Values were very clear. My brother's still very polite. I've always been blunt. Not rude, but blunt.
Okay. So we've got Suhail.
There is, between Pani Puri and Puchkas.
We've got Suhail's mantras for success then, and I've just written them down. One, don't regret. Go to sleep on a clean conscience. Have an interest in something.
And clean sheets.
You need to write a whole book now. Have an interest in something other than what you do regularly and grow your mind that way. Always get your afternoon siesta, which I can recommend as well. And finally, have really good parents. So I'd like a round of applause, if possible, for Mrs. Seth, who is here today. And thank you so much for joining us for this. Now, I know I'm supposed to start the question answer a little later, but I can see that a lot of you do want to be part of the conversation already. So can I quickly see with a show of hands who wants to ask questions, and I'll try and come to all of you. Is that it? The ladies in the middle who want to speak to begin with, or the rest are going to start asking after a bit? I know you put your hand up halfway through the discussion, so I'll start with you, ma'am, and then I'll come to the side.
Okay, I don't know, but I'd love to be enlightened. Just name them. I don't know them. I beg your pardon? See, my thing is, I don't want to get into this political thing. My thing is very simple.
Okay, let's just keep this discussion. I mean, I know we're off the record and all of that.
My thing is very simple. No one in this country is a criminal unless convicted. No one.
Fair enough.
So I will not say person X is a criminal, person Y is a criminal. When you're convicted, you're a criminal. If you're not convicted, you're like you and me. I mean, more like you, less than like me.
All right, but I will ask one question, and really I appeal to all of you, because a discussion has to be held on a certain on a certain plane. Here, I do want to ask of you, since you are called most famously a marketing guru, that in 1 year, we have seen the image of a government that came to power on the basis of perhaps a bigger mandate, not just in terms of votes, but in terms of how many people wanted them to come to power, how many people wanted Mr. Modi to succeed. How is it that in 1 year, that feeling seems to have evaporated? I agree with you that he has brought a hope to the country, but now that hope is being more or less prefaced all the time to say where people will tell you that we had hopes from this government. Why do you think in 1 year that has happened?
Great question. 3 things you must never do in India. Never overpromise and underdeliver. Always underpromise and just about deliver. Number 2, don't put finite timelines to anything, because we are not a great respecter of time in this country. Number 3, and I've said this in that article as well, there are too many things being launched. Every day there's some launch and something, and A, B. He's exhausted all the alphabets, A to Z. What is happening is the consumer or the citizen is befuddled. Citizen only looks at 3 things. Number 1, has my quality of life improved? Has my cost of living reduced? And am I safer? On all these 3 things, there are doubts over this government. Although, in many ways, and in the context of Modi, since someone raised it, after Godhra, there's never been a riot in Gujarat. Now, people might say there may be other reasons.